Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Thursday.
That's right.
Happy Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday.
Looked like you wanted to say happy Monday.
I
Didn't
did.
realize it was Thursday.
It was actually Thursday.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's a special Thursday episode. So, when we do these Thursday episodes, it's no excuses Thursday, right? We bring somebody on that can take away all your excuses. We get different things that people say about meeting people and networking. And there's all kinds of reasons why we can't do that. And I know things are going to start opening up, and in-person events are going to be happening more and more. So you'll definitely want to lean in to what we talk about today, because it's a Thursday episode, and our guest today is going to take away any excuses you may have as far as meeting people and taking things to the next level. But please know that this is not your everyday podcast. No, I don't think we properly warned Michael backstage, but we do things a little differently here on the 30-Minute Hour.
Interesting.
You'll find out, Michael, in just a few minutes.
I will definitely leave your viewers with no excuses left on why they can't network.
That's right.
By the end of this 30-minute hour, they will be all scattered by the side of the road. The excuses, not your viewers. We'll bring them to us. But we'll scatter the excuses on the side of the road.
Yeah, don't do anything to our viewers.
No. I will inspire your viewers.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Inspire them to take it to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into the meat of things, don't forget to check out the show that's a part of our 30-Minute Hour media family. It's Cultivating Conversation. Or Conversations. It's Deja and DeAndre Parker, and they are killing it. I mean, they've had 2 episodes already. They're getting all kinds of engagement. They're making Ted and I look really bad.
They make us look really bad. Yeah.
You get all kinds of people to turn up and comment. But it's a good thing, I mean, their show is really engaging. You want to check it out. It's Cultivating Conversations. The most recent episode, they were talking about attacking 2022, the 7 spiritual laws. So you go right here on the 30-Minute Hour Facebook page and check them out, and make sure you follow them as well. And the good news is this is set up so you can watch and listen to both of us.
That's right.
There's no conflicts. You can listen to Deja and DeAndre, and then you can listen to us. So that's a perfect thing. And don't forget to check out the What Now movement. It's Thankful Thursday. And you got all kinds of things to be thankful for and to be grateful for. And make sure that you reflect on it. And I'll tell you this too. We're talking about being thankful. Like every high-level person that I know of, mentors I had, they all had this habit of picking at least 3 things to be grateful for to start their day and reflecting on it. So it's Thankful Thursday. So make sure you're reflecting on that, and you can go ahead and join the What Now movement group so you can really focus on that. And don't forget to share the show.
Share the show.
That's right.
I've shared it twice already.
There you go.
Excellent. Yeah, I don't keep this a secret. It's great information. Our goal is to help you to laugh, to learn, and to level up. And then one day we can be like Deja and DeAndre.
That's it.
We can only hope. There you go. Now they're killing it. But yeah, don't forget to share the show. So Ted.
Yes, Eric.
I've got something that's on my mind.
Please share, Eric.
All right. I want to talk quickly about how to become a networking rock star. How to become a networking rock star. And I was reading something by this financial expert and author, Thomas Corley. And he studies wealthy people these wealthy entrepreneurs. He wants to find out, like, what do they each have in common that's making them successful, that's making them wealthy. So he conducted this study of 233 wealthy entrepreneurs, and he determined that they had this thing in common. He found out that 79% of the wealthy spend 5 hours or more each month networking. 5 hours or more each month networking. You may be asking yourself, well, why is this the case? Why do they do this? They're already wealthy. Why do they spend so much time networking? And here's really where we need you to lean in, and it'll start to answer the question of how to become a networking rock star. I know a lot of you are listening to us while you're driving. This is where we really need you to pull over to the side of the road. You're in the gym, you're on the treadmill, you're listening to us. This is where you press pause. Ted, is there anything else that people should do?
Michael, this is where you have to put the ham sandwich down. No matter how good the ham sandwich is, you got to put it down. It's about to get good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, why is this the case? Why do these successful, wealthy entrepreneurs that could be sitting on an island somewhere, why are they spending so much time networking? How do you become a networking star? Here's what you need to know. Becoming successful isn't just mental, it's environmental. Let me say it again. Becoming successful isn't just mental, it's environmental. And understanding this is the first step to becoming a networking rock star. You're going to be influenced by your environment. So you might as well network, get around the right people and the right resources. And it just so happens that our guest today is a networking rock star. Let me tell you all about him. This is the perfect time for us to bring him on the show officially. Now, imagine moving to Connecticut, not knowing anybody at all. Zero. You don't know anybody. You're a stranger. You're in Connecticut.
Wow.
And this is what he did back in 2014. Then we fast forward a year later, after diving into networking with both feet, he was a major connector in the local community. He's known as the guy who knows a guy. Isn't that cool? A guy who knows a guy. He transformed himself into this networking rock star. In 2020, he went global, began connecting entrepreneurs and investors and speakers and others around the world, the people that they need to know. He offers his service as a networking concierge. That's interesting to talk about that. Making connections and building strategic alliances, again, around the world. He's the host of his daily morning motivation podcast and the Guy Who Knows a Guy interview podcast. Please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour podcast, Michael Whitehouse. And the crowd.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. And one thing I was thinking when you're talking about the people are already wealthy and successful, when they could be sitting on an island somewhere spending time networking, what makes you think they're not networking on an island somewhere? When people think of networking, they think, and we're going to talk a bit more about this, but so Eric, when you think of networking, what do you think of?
You asking us, what do we think of?
What's the image in your mind when you think networking?
Well, okay. So I'll set this up. So the perception of networking is that you're at an event and you're exchanging business cards and you're meeting people that can potentially help you, right?
Yep. Yes. So you think when like Richard Branson's networking, he's going out to the Chamber of Commerce and handing out some business cards? No, he's inviting people to his private island, and he's hanging out, and they're watching the waves and drinking very expensive wine, and that's still networking. And networking is not necessarily going to the local bank hosting a business after hours, although it could be. There's a lot of different forms of networking besides just shoving business cards in people's hands. And the way that the wealthy network is often different, which is why when you go to the Chamber of Commerce event, you're like, where's all the rich people? Where's all these? Yeah, I hear they're networking 5 hours a week, but it's not here.
Not here. No.
So because that's not the kind of event they need to be at. So it's about networking in the right places.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, it's interesting. And maybe if people had the right perception and understanding of networking, maybe it would happen more.
Yep.
Yeah. This is good stuff. Let's hold that because I want to give people the backstory. This is good stuff. So you're known as the guy who knows a guy.
Yes.
So I mean, what are all the? I know you went to Connecticut and didn't know anybody, but what are all the experiences that resulted in you becoming the guy who knows a guy?
Yeah. So let me give the whole story. So first off, the name actually comes from this book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy. So the book came first, and then the name from the book came to me and became my brand. But back before there was a book, in 2014, I moved to Groton, Connecticut, knowing absolutely nobody, which is an exaggeration. I knew my wife, and I knew myself, and I knew our unborn daughter, if you can count her. So that's like 2.5 people. So not nobody, just slightly over nobody. And I had this idea. I was going to start like consulting type business, and I was going to have a network if that was going to work. So I didn't have a network. I kind of knew how to. I'd done a little bit of stuff with BNI. I'd kind of formed some networking groups before back in Massachusetts. So I had a vague idea, and I knew where the events were, Chamber of Commerce events. So I jumped in with both feet. I went to every business after hours, business before hours, business during hours. I went to every ribbon cutting, hair cutting, line cutting. If there were people getting together, I was going to be there and meet people. And within 9 months, I discovered I was introducing people of note to other people of note, partly because of a quirk of New England, which is that New Englanders are like vampires and can't cross running water. So they hate leaving their town. They hate crossing bridges, like pack a lunch and an overnight bag if you're crossing a bridge. That's a whole thing. Wow. So, over here we have 4 towns in a row: New London, Groton, Stonington, Westerly. And I would introduce people in New London to people in Westerly who have never heard of, the movers and shakers in New London to the movers and shakers in Westerly. It's a 14-minute drive from one to the other, by the way. And I would introduce, they'd never even heard each other's names. And they're like, oh, wow, how do you know these people? Well, I get in my car and I drive over a bridge and then I meet them. So I was able to bridge those connections. And my consulting idea was a little bit half-baked, so it didn't turn into anything. So I had to get a job. So the way I got a job was I knew people who were hiring. And I said, hey, I want to work for you. And they said, sure, come on in. And that happened a few different times. I've since determined that entrepreneur is just a French word for someone who really shouldn't try to hold down a job. And so now I've cured myself of that blind alley. But so I was able to build it up. And then, of course, 2017, I was working various jobs. I was selling printing. I was selling this. I was selling that. But I had all this knowledge. And I said, I don't want people to think of me as a print salesman. They're trying to buy business cards for me. I have all this knowledge. If I write a book, then they'll think of me as an author and not a salesman. So I wrote a book. And interestingly, by the time I got the book out, I wasn't a salesman anymore. I got a job as a marketing manager, so I didn't need the book anymore for credibility. But it was still pretty cool to be able to go to a networking event, put the guy who knows a guy in the raffle, and be the networking expert at the networking event. Got me a little prestige. 2020, everything went kablooey, as we may all recall. The business I was doing at the time, which wasn't really my passion, it was decent. It was a local community magazine, good company, does something good for the community, but it wasn't my calling. It was just a pretty good opportunity. 75% of my sales came from in-person networking. So 75% of my sales went poof overnight.
Wow.
So I went from 2 sales a month to 1 sale a quarter. And I said, I don't think this is going to work anymore because I'm not really interested in learning from scratch how to do it. I just spent 3 years learning from scratch how to do it. I don't really want to start over now.
Yeah.
So I again said, let's do the same networking thing I did before, a little more knowledge, different environment. And the first thing I realized is if my BNI group, that's Business Network International, if my group just went on Zoom, everyone else's BNI group just went on Zoom too. So I could go to BNI groups around the world. I had no plan for that, but I'm just like, wouldn't that be cool? So I visited a group in Malaysia and one in Melbourne, Australia, and one in England and all over the United States, a few in Canada, started making connections that way. started making other connections. Started learning more about coaching. Got training in transformational coaching, and basically spent a year and a half building into this whole new network because I was no longer limited to who can I drive to in New London County, Connecticut, which probably most people have never heard of. Now it was who can I get on Zoom, which is pretty much everyone. And so then I got into kind of better and better networking events, better and better communities, higher level, not like morally better, but, people who are more higher achieving, further along in their business, have more knowledge to share. And one thing I did was I used my podcast as a platform to invite anyone I could find who was successful. And that was season 3 of my podcast, The Focus. Bring on people who are successful to share the story of how they got that way. So this great thing about podcasts is you can invite almost anyone on it and be like, hey, could you teach me that really valuable thing for free on my podcast? They'd be like, yeah, I'd love to. You're going to be on a podcast. And so just these incredible people, one after another, teaching me, building relationships with them, getting to know them. Some of them are actually clients now. And it was an amazing experience through 2021, learning from all these people, building these relationships. And finally, towards about 2 months ago, what I wasn't having success with was actually getting paid. So because I was trying to do coaching, I was like, I'll teach networking. What I realized was I was spending 25 to 30 hours a week networking. That's a lot of time to spend networking. Now, I love networking. I love meeting people, being on podcasts, doing one-to-ones, going to events. I love it. But I realized I can only really teach people to do what I do. And nobody else should do what I do because I'm doing it too much. So it made more sense for me to sell the results of what I do, the introductions, the relationships, the connections to the people you need to meet, instead of teaching you how to network 30 hours a week, which you don't want to do. I love doing it. You don't want to do that much. So I do teach people how to do it, not 30 hours a week. But my program now, Networking Concierge, is people hire me to give the fruits of my labor. So they're looking for joint ventures. They're looking for stages. They're looking for webinar swaps, those kinds of things. And so I go and meet with people 20, 30 hours a week. And then I say, all right, well, during the course of all that networking time, I met this person, make the introductions. So they're happy to pay me because it saves them time, gives them the connections. They can still do what they need to do, but they don't have to. They don't have to do that much. What's great about it too is I will only work with people who understand networking, because if they don't understand networking, they think I'm a magical wizard and they expect magical results. I want clients who can totally do what I do, but just don't have time, or they know how, they just don't like it. Some people are just like, yeah, I could. I know how to do it, but like more than 2 one-to-ones a week is too many. Why don't you do that? Introduce me just the people I know, or talking to the right people is always fun. It's talking to the wrong people. It's kissing all the frogs and being like, and I get on those calls all the time because it's my job. I'm getting better at filtering to like, these are the people who are really, I can provide value to them. They can provide value to me. But I've definitely been on some of those calls where it's like, yeah, okay. So how long do we, 10 minutes left? All right. Oh boy, look at my wrist. I think I need to cut this short. So my clients don't have to deal with that for the most part. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I kind of filter and curate who they get to meet to be the people who are really going to be of value to them. At that, and then I got invited onto this show, and now I'm here. So that's pretty much the story up to today. I skipped a few parts.
Fantastic.
Big version.
Yeah. So I know we've got some people joining from the What Now movement. We are here talking to the guy who knows a guy. But as you're joining on, make sure you're commenting in the comment section. Put your comment, put your questions, and we'll make sure we chat back with you here. So Michael, why do you feel that networking is such a critical skill for entrepreneurs to develop?
Because it is a massive force multiplier. I'll give you a simple example. Just the idea of, say, shared. So this gets into joint venturing, but it'll illustrate the point. Sharing an audience. So let's say that as you're going around, you're trying to build an email list, and you can meet 5 people a week and add them to your email list. You're not really super active, but you're doing your best. You're adding 5 people a week. And by the end of the year, you've got 200 something people on your list. Well, that's not bad. But let's say that I'm also adding 5 people a week, and now I've got 200 people on my list. Well, if we team up and I promote you and you promote me, that's an audience of 400 instead of 200. And, so now my 200 is 250 because 50 of your people like me and your audience is 250. Well, now do that 10 more times and it grows and grows and grows. There's other value too. One of the best things, as an example, when I bought my house last November, I knew almost everyone involved in the process. So if you ever bought a house, it's a pretty stressful situation. You don't know what's going on. There's a lot of things that are kind of mysterious. My mortgage guy must have sent me 20 applications to sign. Because every time something changed or he had to adjust something or maneuver something, we had to sign the application again. If I didn't know and trust him, I would have had to get on the phone with him every single time. What's going on? What's this about? Okay, what's this? What changed here? What's this? What's this? What's this? I knew him. I trusted him. We had a relationship. He sent me the form. I signed it. No problem. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I know this guy. I know I can trust him. We have a relationship. I know other people he's worked with. He's good. I knew our realtor. So when things were getting kind of, weird, I could ask her and trust that she knew what was going on. We even knew the person who was selling the house through my wife's networking. That's how we found out the house was for sale. So we knew the seller. And when the seller's agent started playing games and trying to nickel and dime and whatnot, my wife reached out to the seller and said, listen, this is what we can do. This is the most we're financed for. This is our limit. Can we just make this happen? And she was like, yeah, let me call my agent and make it happen. Because we had human relationships. Most of the things that get really stressful are when you get away from humans. When you're on the 800 number and you're waiting, listening to the hold music, or you don't know who to talk to. At one point earlier in the pandemic, I was trying to collect the PUA, the pandemic unemployment relief assistance, and the unemployment department in Connecticut was swamped. They're understaffed under normal times, and so they were just buried during these times. But I happened to have a good relationship with my state representative, so I could reach out to her and said, "Hey, can you help me out?" And they actually they were kind of the additional support service. They're kind of set up for it because I knew her. And anyone who reached out to her, she'd help. So it's not like I had a special in. Just to be clear, this wasn't anything inappropriate. But I had that relationship, so I was able to get that help. When I go to buy a car, and I know the person who's selling the car, actually don't know it. Car salesmen are they turn over a lot, so it's hard to have relationships with car salesmen. But when I bought my last car, I knew the salesman, so I knew the dealership. I had some trust there. I know bankers, so when I finance my car, I've got those relationships. My wife got a Glowforge, a laser cutter, makes really cool things like this. This was made out of a single flat piece of wood. My wife had the idea to get it, so I emailed our local bank branch manager, who I have a good relationship with, and said, here's what I'm thinking about, what would it take? And she said, here's the interest rate, here's what your payments would be. If you're interested, let me know. I emailed back, yeah, let's do it. She emailed back a form, signed it online. Next day, there's money in my account. Because we have these relationships. Relationships make life so much easier. And that's not even talking about getting customers through relationships and referrals. This is, just knowing people in town and having these connections is incredibly powerful. And it makes you a rock star because somebody could then call you up and say, Eric, if you're this kind of connected, like, hey, Eric, I need to get a new car. Do you know someone I should get it from? Or I need to get some financing. Do you know someone at a bank? And you'd be like, oh, actually, I do. And the best thing is, because a lot of people are probably thinking like, well, that must take years to build up. You can become a connector the minute you decide to be a connector. Because once you decide to be a connector and you start asking the question, who can I introduce you to? Who would it help you to know? People will start answering. Now, a lot of people don't have an answer. They're like, I don't know. But if they have an answer and they said, actually, yes, I need to meet, roofers. I need a new roof, right? I called 2 roofers. No one will call me back. I need a new roof. Well, now as a connector who doesn't know anybody, you can now go to people you know. Hey, Ted, do you know a roofer? I know someone who needs one. Hey, Eric, do you know a roofer? Anyone you meet. Yeah, do you know a roofer? Because I've got someone who's looking to meet a roofer, and I'm trying to make that connection. I don't have someone in my network yet. Do you have someone that I could talk to who might help them? Everyone you ask hears you ask that and says, oh, well, that's pretty cool that you're trying to hook someone up with a connection. I might know somebody, especially if you have a customer like ready to buy Everyone wants to make that connect. That's the best connection to make. I got a customer ready to buy. Do you know anybody? Of course. So now you get to make a relation. You get to build a relationship with that roofer. You get to build a relationship with the person you're helping. So you can build the network simply by starting and saying, "I'm a connector. How can I help you? Who can I help you find?" Now, of course, now I spend a lot less time on the hunt. Like only my clients get the service where I actually go around and ask around. But when I was first starting, and if you're, a local insurance agent or realtor or car salesman, you want to build those relationships, it's totally worth it because every person on the chain, on the hunt to find that person, you're building a better relationship with. And every one of those people might ask you for a referral, or if they're polite, ask you if there's anyone they can refer to you because they see you doing this. They're like, oh, I should probably be a connector too. So is there anyone I can help you with? Well, actually, I'm glad you asked. So it gets you into that whole activity.
Now, you mentioned an interesting aspect of networking. I don't think people always consider. It's not just for business opportunities. It could be for who's a good mechanic, and, who's a great dentist, and you go in with that level of trust.
Yep.
So, and I think that's a great point, and I think that's why it's good. Now, Michael, there's somebody that's watching this now. And they're sitting there, they're saying, look, Michael, this is easy for you because you are outgoing and extroverted, but I'm an introvert. So I can't make this networking thing happen. What do you have to say to that person?
All right, so the great thing is you can be an effective networker without ever talking to a stranger. So you'll
hold on.
I'm leaning in on that.
Yeah. So when
How is that possible?
When I was just describing that story before, when somebody says I'm looking for a roofer, at no point did I say call a stranger. So now, so there's two things I say. One is you can be a connector without knowing anybody, and the other is you can be a networker without talking to strangers. You can't do both. You have to already know somebody's. Or you have to talk to strangers in order to get that started. But if you have a job, you know somebody. You've got coworkers. You've got customers. You've got probably family and friends. So you probably know somebody. That's your starting point. I was doing a training for a group of bankers, and the branch managers have all their customers. So I suggested that was their community. So if they're not comfortable, going out to networking events and going out and being really, outgoing and extroverted, part of their job is talking to their customers. So I suggested, instead of going out to the event, every time you talk to a customer, is there anyone I can introduce you to? I'm a bank branch manager. I know a lot of people. Is there anyone I can introduce you to? And they say, yeah, I really need a whatever. Well, ask your coworkers, the other branch managers. Ask your other customers, the next customer you talk to. Is there anyone I can introduce you to? By the way, do you know a good roofer? I actually had a customer ask me for a roofer, and believe it or not, I don't know a good one. Do you know one you could recommend who I could recommend to that other customer? And if they know one, because everyone likes to be the hero. If they know one, they're like, actually, I do know a great one. I'd love to connect you.
Yeah.
And if not, they saw you doing that, and then you can ask them. So is there anyone you're looking to meet? And I can leverage my networking out. But you can do that without ever going to a networking event, without ever doing any networking, except, hanging out in the island with a billionaire if you get invited to that. But you don't have to go to the formal networking events. It's simply a matter of talking to people and taking on this attitude of, I want to help people. I want to make connections. I want to refer them to people who will benefit them. And now being the extrovert, going out to the events, meeting all the strangers, this is putting more lottery tickets in your hand. The more lottery tickets you buy, the more likely you are to win. The more people you meet, the more connections you're going to have, the easier it's going to be, the faster you're going to get to the point of having a large book of connections. But you don't necessarily need to. And it doesn't even necessarily accelerate it that much. When I go to an average business after hours, I probably meet 5 to 7 new people. And if I were to ask, if you just ask your friends, that you're looking to meet a certain type of person, you could probably meet 5 to 7 people through introductions a week versus going to networking events. So you don't need to ever talk to a stranger who you weren't introduced to. Now, if you're introduced to someone, they're not a stranger anymore. You have an introduction. You don't ever necessarily need to reach out to someone cold, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever. There's always going to be some reason to talk. That's the most awkward thing. Is like, hi, you don't know me, but now once you get comfortable doing that, there's certain ways you can do it that make it a lot easier. But if there's some context, like you're introduced, or you're in a Facebook group together, you comment on their post, they comment on your comment. Now you're talking. Then you move that to a private message. You move that to a phone call. You never had to have an awkward interaction. There was always one thing led to the next, to the next. So there's a number of ways where you can be an effective networker without ever talking to a stranger.
So Ted, I've learned something today. I have to write that down. I can network without meeting a stranger.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep. They're not strangers by the time you meet them. They were strangers yesterday, but they're not strangers by the time you're talking to them.
That's good stuff. So Ash Shukla has been commenting on here. Shout out to you, Ash. Thank you for commenting. He says, good information. He says, I'm an introvert. What do I do? I think Michael has answered that question. And Ash, I have a feeling you're doing pretty well with the networking piece. Ash is somebody we know. He's a friend of the show and the What Now movement. Thank you for chiming in. So I'm curious, Michael, what are some of the things we need to avoid doing? Like what are the common networking mistakes that you see people make?
So there's a few common ones. One is being the desperate sales guy. This will generally be at the networking event. The guy who just comes into the event and he's shoving business cards in your hand or goes into his pitch. And he's just like, hey, Eric, I'm a life insurance agent. And do you have protection for your family? What will happen? Do you have a plan if you die? And you're like, whoa, we just met like 2 minutes ago. Probably not going to die. So back off, buddy. And it doesn't matter how good their product, they're just like right there desperately selling. So that's the first thing is you don't go to a network event to sell at people. The way you do that, by the way, because some people are like, I need to make sales. How do I make sales? You ask questions to identify their needs, which can be solved either by introduction or possibly by the thing you sell. That's how I sold magazine advertising. I would get to know what their needs were, find out that they were trying to reach the market we served, and then say, well, I've got a magazine that reaches 4,000 of those affluent families you're talking about. Would you like to have a conversation about that? Well, we'll make all the time in the world to talk about my solution to my problem. If it's the solution to the salesperson's problem, if I'm meeting you and my problem is I need to sell more stuff, you don't care. You will spend no time talking about my problem of needing to sell more stuff. You will spend hours talking about your problem and how to solve your problem. So that's what it's all about, is identify their problem. Another common networking mistake, and this is, the being the salesy guy, most people can avoid by just like not wanting to be a jerk. A big mistake I see is not knowing what you want. So, and this kind of gets into a broader coaching kind of concept, is I always ask people when I'm coaching them the magic wand question. So you have a magic wand, you can get anything you want in life, you can make your life what you want it. What's your life look like? And it's amazing how almost everyone I ask this of starts out really short. And I'll never forget the first time I did it. It was with someone who's a very devout Christian. So what I said was, God comes down to you and gives you a pre-signed prayer request, like approved, God, name signed on it. You can write anything above his name and it'll happen. And I'm like, what are you putting on that? And she says, well, I want a job that pays at least $16 an hour and is at least 30 hours. And I want, the house to be cleaner. And I'm like, whoa, back up. You have a blank check from God Almighty himself who will do anything you ask. And you're asking for a $16 an hour job? And she's like, oh, wait, shoot. Yeah. Oh, got it. Okay. Bigger. But many people, almost everyone I've asked the question of, whatever form I use, they think small and immediate, whatever's on their mind right now. And the challenge in networking, if you haven't thought bigger, like what's my goal? Where do I want to be in 5 years, 1 year, 3 months? Then when I come up to them at a networking event and I say, who can I introduce you to? They're like, I don't know, or a customer. If it's a realtor, they'll say someone looking to buy or sell a house, and I'm like, no, I'm not your prospecting agent. Who can I introduce you to? What relationship can I give you that would do something for you? And most people don't have that answer, because you go to a network event.
Something interesting. Yeah. You bring up something interesting, and it's one of the things, like when I'm working with someone and they're about to go to a conference, there's going to be all kinds of people. So one of the things they have to do is tell me, what are your outcomes? I have a special form I send them. What are your outcomes? What are you looking to get out of it? What questions do you have? And so now when you go into this conference, it's like you said, now you know you know who you need to be introduced to, as opposed to just kind of going in, not really having. So I think that's a big one, kind of going in without a vision of what it is you really want.
Yep. Yeah. And that's it. And it can be difficult, especially, if you don't have a clear idea of what, I well understand this, because I spent a year being like, I want my business to be good, but I'm not quite sure what that looks like. I'm not sure what I'll be doing. So it was very hard to know, who do I need to meet? What do I need to do? Anything like that. So, it starts with doing the work on what's your ideal life look like 5 years from now. Are you, are you getting paid as a coach or getting paid as a speaker? Are you, do you have a few big clients or a lot of small clients? Are you doing a service or a product? Like and a lot of that comes to getting rid of the assumptions. So, I was surrounded by coaches doing courses. And so I thought, I need to be a coach doing a course, but that doesn't vibe. Like, courses are a lot of work and structure and planning. And I'm a talk loud and smile big guy. Planning and process, that's what I partner with people for. So when I finally stopped trying to do what I was bad at and started trying to do what I'm good at, that's when I started hitting success, and clients started coming to me, and it really started to work. So, and again, that's a bigger challenge, probably beyond, what I do. But what a lot of other people do help with is figuring out, what are you trying to get? And then once you know what you want to get, networking is a tool to get it, because if there is a human on earth who can give you what you want, then you can find the solution through networking. And so you need to know who that person is, or at least what their description is, because there may be thousands of them, millions of them. I don't need to meet Richard Branson or Gary Vaynerchuk or Tony Robbins. In fact, they probably don't need my services, networking concierge. They can call anyone they want, and they're fending people off. I need to meet people who are at a different level, who need to meet me, and there's thousands of them, and my capacity right now is about 10 to 20 clients. So I can be really, really full pretty easily, but I have a clear idea of who that client is, who I'm looking to meet. So when I'm talking to someone, I can have that clear picture of what we're looking for. But it's not having that faith of, through this network, I can meet everyone I need to if I know. And then the other thing that leads to that, besides not having the clarity of vision, clarity of purpose, is not having confidence in yourself that you have value to deliver. So, I want to meet CEOs, but why would a CEO want to talk to me? And because people see things very linearly. I'm down here and they're up here.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, all of my clients are wealthier than me by quite a bit. But why do they want to talk to me? Because I can do something they don't want to do. I've got time and inclination to do something that will make them even wealthier that they don't want to do. So they're happy to pay me to do it. And so they want to talk to me, even though, there's different axes of value. Even the richest CEO might still have a bad back or a bad relationship with their daughter, or their favorite plants in the garden are dying, or there's all kinds of challenges money can't solve. And you need the right people who can solve it for you. And they probably got rich by teaming up with those right people. So figuring out what I call in my book, my UVP, unique value proposition. What is it about you that's valuable? Don't worry about what they may be better than you at everything else. But if you're better than them at the one thing, they're ready to give you money for it. Or at least they want to meet you. And the other thing I'll say is, even if you have nothing, straight out of college, you're like, I don't even know anything. You have your enthusiasm. And so you can go to that millionaire, that CEO, that inventor, that rock star, and if you can get a conversation with or an introduction with them, and it's simply, I have nothing to give but my enthusiasm. I want to learn from you. I feel like in 15 minutes, you could move me forward 6 spaces on the board just with your knowledge. Could I just get coffee with you or get on a call with you and just ask you a couple questions and learn from you because you've got so much to give? A lot of people who are successful are thrilled. Actually, one of the guests we have at the Global Networking Summit, Greg, I don't know butcher's last name, Greg from Proforma. He agreed to be on the summit because he's like, I've been so successful. I want to share what I know with the next generation of business owners coming up. That's his motivation to be there, is that he wants to share and he wants to teach what he learned the hard way. People can learn the easy way from him. A lot of people are eager to do that.
Yeah, so you mentioned your book. I think this would be a good time to start talking about that.
Okay.
The Guy Who Knows a Guy. Let's talk about like who's the target audience. What are some key things that they're going to pick up that you haven't talked about yet?
Yep. So the initial target audience is people I want to impress, but the target audience now is anyone who finds networking daunting and wants it to be more approachable. Because it's a fun book. It's a short, it's 100 pages. It's designed to be an easy read. It's the kind of book you can read in like 1 or 2 sittings. And it's full of stories, and it's not just like, here is how you network. It's full of stories and anecdotes and things I've done, things that have worked, things that haven't worked, fun examples of how not to do it, because everyone loves counterexamples about, don't be Despero, the desperate salesperson. Or I should say in the book, don't be Despero, the desperate salesperson. And if you do, don't tell anyone you read my book. I don't want them to think you learned it in my book. But so it's a lot of things like that. It really focuses on kind of like the right mindset, the right attitude, a bit of strategy. I do tell the story in detail about how I bought my house, knowing everybody involved in the process. I talk a bit about kind of gratitude and mindset as well, goals, things like that. But really, it's about sort of demystifying the networking process. And so it was written back in 2017, which in my own personal development is like a million years ago. So it's really focused on networking events, in-person events particularly. But a lot of things are still very adaptable to modern, to these online events and to this new crazy world. It's still going to a place with people who want to connect with you and finding a way to connect with them and create value. So, and people can go to guywhoknowsaguy.com, because if you search for it on Amazon, I think it comes out like 37th in the search. But if you go to guywhoknowsaguy.com, there's a link that takes you straight there if people want to get a hold of that.
We can include that in the show notes too. The Guy Who Knows a Guy.com. I mean, that's just a cool tagline, right? I mean,
yes.
The Guy Who Knows a Guy.
Yeah. Oh, and what's funny is that was the name of the book first. I'm pretty sure it was my mother's idea. And so originally I was just, Michael Whitehouse, print salesman, who wrote The Guy Who Knows a Guy. I started taking it to chamber events, putting it in the raffle to kind of position myself as more than just a salesman. And of course, the chamber event realized, we've got the guy who knows a guy himself here. How cool is our event? So they started saying, hey, look, it's Michael, the guy who knows a guy. And then a friend of mine who's in marketing said, you really need a website for your book. So I'm like, okay. So I got guywhoknowsaguy.com. I got a WordPress page, made it for the book. And then I did some other things. I was like, well, no point in making a new page. I'll just put it on the Guy Who Knows a Guy page I already have. And basically the book expanded to consume my entire business identity. And I eventually became the Guy Who Knows a Guy because the book just spread out over everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're the host of the Global Networking Summit that's coming up.
Yes.
Share the details of this event. And I happen to know somebody who's one of the people being interviewed and sharing their story. I think I know him pretty well. But go ahead and share the.
Yeah, I think you know that Eric Twiggs guy pretty well, right?
Yeah.
You've met him a couple times. Yes. So it is February 21st to 23rd, and there's 2 components to it that are tied together. So the first part is the content, the interviews of which you spoke. We have 30 speakers on there. And I've on all kinds of topics in and around networking, basically things that entrepreneurs can benefit from. We got some stuff about sales, some stuff about marketing, some stuff about mindset, of course, a lot of stuff about networking and relationship building and all kinds of topics, 30 different topics. And you can watch it for free on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 10 of them each day you can access for free. Or there's also an upgrade ticket, which is only $97, gives you access to all the recordings and a live networking event, which will be the evening on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 21st to 23rd, from 5 to 8 Eastern time. And then this is the global part of the Global Networking Summit. On the 24th, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, we're doing a 24-hour around-the-world networking event. So people from all over the world, because we sat down like, so what time should we do it? Because, this time's good in England, but this time's good in Australia, but this time's good in the U.S. It's like, what if we just do all of them? Wow. So 24 hours of networking. And so that the same VIP upgrade that gets you the recordings, that gets you all the VIP gifts. I think it's got up to like $14,000 worth of free gifts you get with that ticket. Also gets you into the 24-hour networking event, meeting with people all over the world. It's going to be an incredible event. And I believe that you have a link. So people can go to globalnetworkingsummit.com if you don't like Eric. But if you do like Eric, which I hope you do, go to the link that he put down in the show notes, because then he gets credit for bringing you in instead of me. And he's a pretty cool guy, so you should make sure he gets credit.
Yeah, definitely check out the Global Networking Summit. It's going to be a lot of different perspectives on networking, and definitely you'll get on the other side of this and be a level up. I think you should just leverage these opportunities to get to that next level.
Yeah. And that's it. Like for me, it was going to better and better and better events. It's going to be one of those places where there's going to be, some of those kinds of people who can take the next level. I mean, even, a lot of our speakers are going to be there. And I can't, this is the first time we've done this. I can't guarantee we're going to have hundreds and hundreds of people. But frankly, if we have dozens instead of hundreds, that's better. Because, of course, our speakers are going to come because they're already part of the event. You're going to get to talk to them. You're going to get to connect with them directly, which most of these virtual summits, you get to see them. And then maybe you get to send them an email or connect. Some are more accessible, some are less accessible. But not many of them give you the experience you get at a live summit, which is like talking to them in the lobby afterwards, which is going to be sort of what this part's going to give you. So it's going to be really, really valuable in terms of quality. Hopefully a lot of quantity too. That's what we're hoping. But whether we have quantity or not, there's going to be great quality of people that you can make connections with there.
Fantastic. So we're at the final segment. It's called Write This Down. This is Ted's favorite part of the show. This is where we each go around and we want to leave the entrepreneurs with a thought, an idea from today's show that they need to write down so they can level up. So, Michael, you're the guest of honor. We'll start with you. What do the people need to write down from this show?
So I'm going to, I actually mentioned this once before, so if they're on at the beginning, they would have heard this, but I'll say it again because it is the most important thing. If you get this one thing and nothing else, then you can be a connector at the level I connect, which is you become a connector when you decide to be a connector. I'm going to say it again. You become a connector when you decide to be a connector. When you start telling people, I'd like to make connections for you, who can I introduce you to? You start to offer that will lead to building your network. That will lead to that virtuous cycle of you make connections. So more people ask you for connections. You feel better about yourself. I don't do it so much anymore because I'm so busy, but I used to, if I was having a bad day, I'd go out on Facebook and I'd say, who can I connect? Who can I help out? Like, I'm having a bad day. Let me make your day better. And I got people jobs that way. I solved problems. I found people they needed. And it's just such an amazing feeling to send a Facebook message or an email and solve a problem someone's been stuck on for a month. So when you decide to become a connector, you can start doing that too.
Nice. So it starts with a decision.
Everything starts with a decision.
Right now. Absolutely. All right, Ted.
So when I think about networking, and I've been doing this for years, and I think that the secret for me has always been to connect first and then sell. Right? Like, because people will walk up to you, and especially at those chamber of commerce events, and everybody just comes up and gives their spiel. Right. And then you give your spiel and they go to the next person, they give their spiel, and people aren't really kind of listening much. They're just pressing play to do their spiel, and they want to hopefully get some type of engagement in that conversation. Like, I think that if you connect first, and like I'd say, hey, Mike, nice beard, man. I like how you doing that beard thing. Us beard guys got to stay together. Well, tell me about yourself, right? Tell me about yourself. What you do? And I'm just letting you talk. I just, I have an IT consulting company. We work with the government, but other than that, I mean, who are you taking in the game this weekend, right? Like, just being able to connect with that person, right? And then, hey man, let's have a follow up, man. And especially now, it's much easier. But let's have a virtual follow up. Like, you don't even have to. Before it's, hey, let's get together for lunch. No, let's get together 15 minutes virtually. I'll send you Zoom, Teams, whatever.
Much less commitment.
Yeah, and then you can just share a little bit about what you do. I could share and go from there. So I just think that if you focus on connecting first and then selling, right? Because no one likes to be sold to, even salespeople. Like, there's salespeople that are home and when their phone rings or whatever, and they're like, it's telemarketer. Well, why are you mad? They're doing what you do. They're trying to sell. You mad at them for calling? This daggone telemarketer. You see it come up on your phone, right? But they're doing what you do. So no one likes to be sold to. So the networking events, if you just focus on, making a connection, and then having that next discussion, I think that's, going a long way. So definitely write that down.
That's great advice. And I can tell you, Ted is one of the best I've seen at it. Networking. It looks natural. Like, it doesn't look like he's just there having a conversation.
Because it's people. You're dealing with people. People, and they always say people buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. So you don't know me, trust. You just met me. So how you gonna trust me? Let me make you like me. He seems like a nice guy. Let me make you like me. And focus on just that connection, man. It goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. So write this down. It has to do with if there's somebody that you want something from. Maybe you want them to mentor you. Maybe you want something from them. And we joke about this all the time, Ted and I. They'll say, hey, can I pick your brain? I want to pick your brain about something. Like I think that's one of the worst things you can say, because it signals, right? It signals that you want time for free, you want content for free, you're just trying to get something out of the exchange. I think you have to be careful with saying that. I think the better approach is to lead with value. Like how can you support their cause? Mm-hmm. I think you lead with that. So if let's throw a scenario out there. There's someone that you want to be on their podcast. Instead of saying, hey, I would really love to be on your podcast, how can you help that person? Do you say, hey, you know what? I just downloaded it and I'm sharing it with my people. You know what? I just left you a review. I love your show. That podcast host is going to be a lot more likely to have you on his show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hey, I see you have a book. You know what? I just bought your book and I'm going to leave you a review.
Yeah.
I think the key is to lead with value.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong. And I don't care how successful the person is. I mean, this person could be world famous. That they have a book, and you say, you know what? I just purchased your book. You're going to get their attention. They're going to be like, oh, okay. And I think that's something that's missing. And I think if we can understand this idea of leading with value, and I think I agree perfectly with what both of you guys said. I think we'll be a lot better at connecting. So definitely write that down. Make sure you lead with value, and don't ever ask anybody to pick their brain.
No, it's good.
That is a weird image. Pick your brain.
That's it. Will you stop picking my brain, Michael? Please stop picking my brain.
Right. This has been a great episode. So, Michael, can you share with the people the best way that they can connect with you?
Absolutely. So they can go to guywhoknowsaguy.com. They can also find me on Facebook. I think I put a comment under the original post for this video if they're watching it on Facebook. But go to guywhoknowsaguy.com, and there's a whole bunch of things on there because I'm not a web designer and I built the site myself, so it's kind of a sprawling mass of knowledge. But at the top of it, you will find 3 interesting things. The first is you can get my Power 5 networking tips, which is my book distilled into a single page of 5 tips. Just put your email in there and I'll send it right to you. And then you go over to the right and you will see 2 things. One is if you're interested in my networking concierge program. So if you run a business that's usually in this high 5, maybe 6-figure range, basically if an introduction can be worth $10,000 or more, then that's the kind of person I work with. And you can click the button and say, I'd like to talk to you about working with you. And if that's not you, you can go up a little bit. And I have an open virtual coffee because, as you can imagine, a lot of people want to have one-to-ones with me because that's kind of what I do. I put myself out there. And it started filling my schedule. So I said every Friday at 10 a.m., I'm just going to have an open virtual coffee. Anyone who wants to meet with me can come there. They can meet me. They can meet the other people in the room because sometimes I'm not who they know I'm talking to. It's someone else in the room that I want to talk to. So they can go to the website there and they can sign up pretty much every Friday at 10 a.m. I do that as well. And then also through there, they can find my Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast, my Power Lunch podcast, which again, podcast, same issue. So many people wanted to be on it. I created a podcast where I bring on 4 guests every week, Fridays at 2, and it's a random group. So it's so much fun because I never know who's going to be on there. It's a mix of people. Really interesting conversations come up there. And then, of course, my daily morning motivation, which is a hit of motivation, 2 to 5 minutes every day to get you, as some people have observed, I've got a bit of energy. So I put that in that podcast and kind of blasts you out of bed, getting you going in the morning, which you can find at morningmotivation.fun or just at guywhoknowsaguy.com. It's all linked on there. I think I need to check my site, see what all the links are. I'm pretty sure everything's on there. So those are the various things you can find all in one place. Guywhoknowsaguy.com.
The guywhoknowsaguy.com.
Yep.
Make sure
There's no V on the website. It's just guywhoknowsaguy.com. I couldn't get the guywhoknowsaguy.com, which is probably just a way to make it longer. It's long enough as it is.
Well, we certainly want to thank you, Michael, for everything that you shared with our audience and how you've taken away excuses. People are going to get out there and they're going to network and they're going to make it happen. We now have a better perspective on what networking really means. We understand that we're not going to see Richard Branson at the Chamber of Commerce. We get that now.
Probably not. Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
His network is a little different than ours.
Yeah, a little bit. But you can network the same way.
Right.
You know, one thing I do want to throw in also, which is a bonus. Write this down on that. It's a bonus one. It's the first time I've ever done the bonus one, right? Like you always want to go to the places where the people you want to meet go. Right?
Great point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So say you are, I don't know, let's say something like you're like a kind of first time home buyer, right? And you go to a place where there's a lot of other first time home buyers. I don't know if any of those people are going to be able to help you much, mm-hmm. right? But if you're someone that deals with, home financing and it's a first time home buyer event,
mm-hmm.
everyone there is something. You want to meet everybody.
Yep.
Meet everybody. How you doing? Everybody. You want to get to meet everybody that you can meet in there.
And right. The best thing now is some of those spaces that used to be very exclusive are now much easier to get into because they're virtual. So there's a lot more bridges from across the different strata of business that it used to be. You had to pay $5,000 and fly to Malta to go to this event. And now there's a virtual version of it, which is $197 on Zoom, and you can do it from your house and still meet a lot of those same people.
Yeah, and I learned that, having a, IT company, and I go to all these small business events, and people would say that, oh man, you got to go to the small business event. So basically, I'm going to an event that is going to be a bunch of other small businesses. They're not buying from me.
A bunch of broke people hanging out together talking about how broke they are.
Wait, we all in here together. Hey, this is my company. I do IT. Well, I do IT too, and I do it, and I do it. You go home, you got a stack of other companies that do IT. Not one potential customer in there. Nah.
That's not where those customers are.
That's why if one customer comes in there, like if you have someone that comes in and they're doing a presentation. They are trying to get out of there because there's a long line of small businesses. Everybody just got them cornered. They're like, oh, I got to get up out of here. So yeah, go to the places where the people go that you're trying to get to.
Yep. Right on.
Yeah, that's great advice. Can save you a lot of wasted time and money.
Mm-hmm. That's right. If you're gonna be chasing somebody around to talk to, make sure it's somebody that could potentially help you.
Yeah, I've heard about networking events, like chamber events, not the ones around me, but chamber events where like half the people there were unemployed looking for jobs. And so there's a bunch of unemployed people talking to other unemployed people.
Yeah.
And of course, these aren't like unemployed people have leads for other people because they're still unemployed. So they're not actually making good connections because they're meeting other unemployed people.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. You often will find people who are not like you.
That's it.
But it kind of goes back to that whole thing with beginning with the end in mind we were talking about earlier. And so, your outcome is to get some business and you're going to an event where there's not going to be people that can give you business. It might be tough for you.
Mm-hmm.
You paid that big registration, $1,000, and you're like, man, I don't meet anyone.
Yeah.
Yep. That's rough.
Great point. Write that down.
Right.
That's critical. Hope you got that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's our show. Again, don't forget to share the show.
Share the show.
Share the 3 times.
Share the show.
That's right. Hopefully we made you laugh and learn and level up. So make sure you share the show. And don't forget, you'll be able to hear the replay on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of those other places where you like to listen. That's our show. Thank you again to Michael Whitehouse. And until next time, have a great one.